Amigos, let's pay tribute to all the great, rock and roll in history. All the great rock and roll in history. Oh yeah. 'Cause I don't know about you, but I'm a rock and roll son. Chuck Berry, Bo Diddley, Fast Domino, take care of my family, watch over them the most for me. Oh, for me. Little Richard, Bill Haley, Elvis the King, take care of my ma, watch over my pa, 'cause I took off and I left them so far away. They said Godspeed and I took off running, and I hadn't stopped yet, I just keep on trucking you. Buddy Holly, Roy Orbison, Tina Turner, hang out with my friends, be nice to all them folks for me. Oh, for me. The Fab Four, Jimi Hendrix, Robert Smith, and Prince. Yeah, take care of my girl, keep her always sweet, 'cause I took off and I left them so far away. They said Godspeed and I took off running, and I hadn't stopped yet, just keep on trucking. They said Godspeed and I took off running, I hadn't stopped yet, I just keep on trucking. I grabbed my guitar and I came this far for you. Oh, to save your soul with rock and roll for you. And no hip-hop alarms, no lip-syncing gigs for you. Just a loud guitar and some rock and roll for you. Godspeed and I took off running, and I hadn't stopped yet, I just keep on trucking. They said Godspeed and I took off running, and I hadn't stopped yet, just keep on trucking. They said Godspeed and I took off running, and I hadn't stopped yet, I just keep on trucking. They said Godspeed and I took off running, and I hadn't stopped yet, I just keep on trucking too. Where am I trucking to? Oh, where am I trucking to? Oh, where am I trucking to? I'm trucking to you. I grabbed my guitar and I came this far for you. Oh, to save your soul with rock and roll for you. And no hip-hop alarms, no lip-syncing gigs for you. And just a loud guitar and some rock and roll for you. For you. I grabbed my guitar and I came this far to spread the word with the beautiful sound and a 4/4 beat and 6-string rounds, armed with the gospel of rock and roll. If you give it a chance, it can save your soul. will never die. Sing rock and roll will never die. Sing rock and roll will never ever die. Sing rock and roll will never die. Sing rock and roll will never die. Sing rock and roll will never, never ever die. Come on and sing rock and roll will never die. Sing rock and roll will never die. Sing it, rock and roll will never ever die. Oh yeah, rock and roll will never die. No, rock and roll can never die. No, rock and roll will never ever ever die. Oh yeah, you sing it, rock and roll will never die. Sing it, rock and roll will never die. Oh no, rock and roll can never ever die. There's some kid out there playing on his 6-string guitar. There's some kid out there rocking on his 6-string guitar. He's learning the pentatonic lick for the first time, and he's like, oh Lord, that sounds like the blues, and it sounds like rock and roll too. And he's like, oh, waste freely, show me a way. He's like, Ace freely, please show me the way. And Ace freely picks up his guitar in the 70s. And he's like, I can do a bunch of stuff, but I'm gonna keep it real simple for you and go. Rock and roll all night, party every day. If you're hip to his New York groove. And he's like, did that learn a lesson to you? Keep it simple and catchy, and what can you do? Is it in your head? Oh, is it in your head? The kid's like, rock and roll, yeah, it's in my head. You go, rock and roll will never ever die. Rock and roll will never ever ever die. Yeah, sing rock and roll will never die. Sing it. Oh yeah, rock and roll will never ever die. Oh yeah, rock and roll will never die. Say rock and roll will never die. Say rock and roll will never ever die. No, 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 no. Rock and roll will never ever die. Oh no, oh no. Rock and roll will never ever die. Oh yeah. Rock and roll will never ever die. Jacobius, thank you for those 100 bits. And now what I want you to do for me is raise your hands in the air. Hallelujah, I see you out there. And I see you too with all those emotes. And anyone out there, if you're listening along, if you got this song in your head, raise your hands in the air and sing rock and roll will never die. Sing rock and roll will never die. Sing rock and roll will never die. Oh yeah, singing rock and roll will never die. Singing rock and roll will never die. Rock and roll will never die. Ooh. Rock and roll will never die. Thank you for keeping us alive. Thank you for keeping us alive. Rock and roll. Thank you, thank you. Thank you, rock and roll. Rock and roll will never die.